I want to thank everyone for coming. I know it's the starting of the holiday celebrations and parties and everything that's going on. I want to thank Pro Photo Daily, Epson, American Photo, and Photo Shelter for being with us. Tonight we have Mark Edward Harris, who's going to talk about Japanese baths. And I have to say, Mark, as I said before, please bring us a little bit of serenity in the holiday season with the world being upside down as it is. We need you to center us. So, with that, share your screen and off we go. Again, thank you so much, Mark, for doing this.
It's my pleasure, Frank, as always, and Jay, thank you as well to you. So I am going to move this slightly
Oh, and
here.
one thing, as we get started, in the chat room, you will see two things where you can obtain Mark's book and some information on his next journey to Japan. He has a workshop, so there's information about that. If that's something that you're interested in, there's information there. All yours.
Perfect. But thank you, Frank, for having me as always. It's so great and thank you all for joining us. Feel free, it's a small group. If you have questions along the way,
Raise your
of
hand there.
course, Frank will be interjecting and questions, but please feel free. I love the interaction. So, my journey into the Japanese bath started by accident in around 1991, 92 in Beppu, uh, which is in the southern island of Kyushu. How many of you guys have been to Japan before? I can't see everybody on the screen, but a number of you for sure have
Yeah.
been there. Good. Um, so th this is in Ginzan Onsen, but I want to show you sort of the progression of books. This is the first edition of the book, which uh, Scott Rivera, amazing designer, designed it. And so this was how the book worked with the
Sleeve.
separate, uh, and the clips were uh, Chinese bone clips, which of course are plastic, not bone. So that came out like 2003, then 2009 we did another one, then 2013, and so it's done really well. And so this was the design of the second and third uh, editions. And so this is Beppu. So I wanted to bring it back to the first time I was in this amazing town on the southern island of Kyushu. There's, four main islands of Japan. Kyushu is the southernmost, one of the home islands. Um, Unfortunately, they had a very big fire there in a place called Oita Prefecture. That was pretty massive just a month ago. But Beppu is still really a mecca for the onsen. And onsen, and I'm just setting the stage a little bit before we dive in, so to speak. Um, uh, Onsen have to have a certain amount of natural minerals in order to be onsen water rather than just tap water in a sense. When you go to the baths in the cities, very often, which are called sentos, uh, communal bathing has a long history in Japan. People didn't have private baths and showers in their homes, and so people would go to these communal ones. And there were so many of them, beautiful tile uh, places. And people also enjoyed it for the camaraderie of it. And the bathing, the actual going into the water was for relaxation, something we all need now, as Frank alluded to. It was not for cleaning. So in a sense, it was cleaning the soul. You washed before you got in, and then you also rinsed off when you got out.
Yeah, and Mark,
Yep.
just speak a little bit as you're continuing
Mhm.
with the whole journey, and then how it metamorphoses in your head to this should be a book, right? Just in over the course of the evening.
Right. Well, just basically, I mean, I shot that on that first trip, and we'll see some of the photos later, with very high speed film. This was in the film days, and so I shot Ilford 3200 and T-Max 3200, and I pushed it, and very, very grainy, but it created the right mood for night shots. And so that night shots and indoor. bath shots, this very sort of surreal, sort of mystical feeling. It conveyed it really well. And so Peterson's Photographic actually said, could you I do a story on it? And this was really pretty fairly early on in my career, early 90s, when I was, freelance and trying to explore more what I wanted to shoot. And so after doing that, there was a lot of interest in it, and so some galleries started representing the work and moved on. And so this is the cover of the latest edition of the book in Ginzan, shot digitally. Now I'm shooting a lot with a Leica Q2 monochrome. Uh, let's see if I can. There we go. And you guys are only seeing the screen. You guys are not seeing yourselves or anything else on the
No, no,
screen.
we just have the screen.
Okay, good. And so this is I have the ukiyo-e, which are woodblock prints. I'm using those in the book as the opening, the end
Mm,
pages, and
right.
just obviously just screen to just sort of a light green. But I wanted to show here just the history. Uh, Bathing in Japan is nothing new at all, and it used to be mixed bathing until the West kind of came in and ruined the party in most places.
Mm,
During the Edo period. And so, but you can see these woodblock prints, ukiyo-e, which is sort of a dream world. Then later on at the bottom, you see what are called hanga and shinhanga, new style prints. And so you can see sort of like the different look. It's a little more, to some degree, realistic. There's also other things that make it a hanga versus ukiyo-e, which you really see the classic ones. Like if you guys remember Hokusai with the wave, at every sushi restaurant, you see it on the wall, right? It's not here, but um, and hot springs are throughout Japan. I mean, they're even all the way down. You can see at the very bottom, Naha, which is Okinawa. Though the real magic of hot springs is more in cooler areas because you get the mist because of the cool air and the warm water, which you really never get that sort of temperature differentiation uh, in Okinawa, but everywhere else, Kyushu, which I was talking about a minute ago, and then as you continue up throughout Japan, gets cold enough to really experience that. And so it was really in Beppu, and this is where this photo is, and it's because of the mineral content that the water appears white.
yeah.
In color photography, it's much more bluish, but in uh, black and white, it appears very white. And very few onsen actually have the mineral properties to make it uh, appear white. But this sort of reminds me of a Japanese garden in a sense, right?
Mm,
All that, there's that whole concept of Japan where in the West we call it negative space, which is sort of a negative way to say it, right? And the Japanese rock gardens are particularly famous for their lack of having things, if we're thinking of it in a Western way. And a lot of it, of course, ties into to Buddhism and such. But this is one of those shots with Ilford 3200 that I'm talking about. Now, it could have been T-Max 3200, but or Ilford. This is in Beppu, and this is a Takiyu, which is a waterfall bath. And I kind of think of it in a way like golf courses in a way. Like every single golf course is different, right? It
mm,
goes with the terrain, or at least a good golf course design is like that. In fact, Robert Trent Jones, I met in Hawaii doing a golf story, and he took me around. He studied in Japan, and so he was telling me about how he uses Zen garden approach to his golf course design, which was amazing. And so these baths tend to work into whatever environment they're in. But you see how the cold air and the warm water work really well for
yeah.
produce that steam. Um, but even just the outdoor baths, and so you have indoor baths, you have outdoor baths, you have men only, women only sides, and then you have what's called. So this is a Rotenburo, which is just simply an outdoor bath. Buro is furo, which means bath, and then um, you have indoor, outdoor, men's side, women's side. But in some places, in the more remote areas, you have what's called a konyoku, which is mixed bathing. And that used to be, as I said, much more the norm That's not really the norm anymore.
And Mark,
We found. Yeah.
how long does a person normally stay in the water? And
That's
and
a fantastic question. And
and, what is the arrangement? Like, do you pay for the day? Do you pay for hours? How does it work?
well, most of the time, you can always find it in hot spring towns. You can always find some public baths that are very cheap that you can go for just the day. Even at ryokans, which are Japanese style inns, you can go sometimes, like Tagaragawa and Guma Prefecture. But they have it from, okay, you can go from 10 to 3 p.m. if you're not a guest of the ryokan. But then at 3 or 4 o'clock when guests check in at these Japanese style inns, it's only for the guests only. It really is a magical experience when you go to a the best thing to do in Japan is to stay at a Japanese style inn and then have their baths. And a lot of people just they're so expensive at the high end ones.
Mm.
People typically they arrive at the check-in, which is late by our standards. Typically sometimes 4 p.m. You have time. You go to your room. You change into yukata, which is a Japanese bathrobe in a sense, cotton robe. And sometimes you put on an overcoat with that. Then you go down to the bath and you do a bath, and then you go and then you do a kaiseki meal. And often there's no TVs in these ryokans. You're just really there to be, present. And when you first walk in, the first thing you do is you take off your worldly outdoor shoes. You slip into geta or zori, which are the two different sort of
Mm.
shoes, and you don't see those until you leave the next morning. And so you're really taking in Japan. So whoever has gone to Japan in the past, I hope you've done a ryokan. For those who haven't, and you're going again, please experience that. Not every single day of the trip. That might be a bit too decadent, but at least, have some opportunities for that. And so what I would do, and people say, well, how could I just photograph there? And especially now, it's become more difficult in the digital era because they're so sensitive to iPhones and all that.
Mm.
But because I can speak, Japanese at least at a intermediate level, I would just simply say what I'm doing, or I would set it up with the proprietors of the ryokans and say what I was doing. But in this situation, it was just a men's side. I just said what I was doing,
And
and
this is all year round, Mark?
all year round, all
All
year.
year round.
But definitely, it's it's better in the fall, winter when it's cooler. Then you're really getting the
The
inyo,
contrast.
the contrast, the coolness, because wow, it feels so good. And when you're in midwinter, oh, it's just incredible. Just, you're because some of these baths, really outdoors, and you have to take a little walk away from the ryokan to get to them. And so you're literally freezing your derriere off, or oshiri, I should say in Japanese, right?
Mm.
When you're getting to it, and then to get into the water, it's like, oh, you never want to get out.
Yeah.
Uh,
So Mark,
yeah,
you do a project like this.
yeah.
Is this different from the other projects that you cover because you're into it in an emotional level or a spiritual level more than documenting like the Olympics that you're going to cover in a couple of weeks,
Yeah.
right? I mean, here you're into the experience of what you're photographing. Is that something that you recognize, or is that a bad idea?
No, no, no. It's well, and it's also and this is different than the way I normally shoot as well, because some of these one could say to try to be a little fancy, a bit mise en scène, right? In other words, this is Mika. This is my ex-wife who we're still super, super close. In fact, whenever I teach a workshop in Japan, she does the tea ceremony for us, which is another aspect of Japanese culture. Uh, but she knows I'm there. I don't really direct too much. That's a floating sake tray, by the way.
Floating side. So, and getting permission into these places, you started speaking about that, letting people, of course you have to get permission. Is that something that's very difficult?
Uh, there's so many hot springs out there that if a few say no, there's always other places, but most say yes, especially now that this series is pretty well known in Japan, and I've had
Uh,
exhibitions. So it's gotten easier, and also, often like Mika uh, would call and say we're coming down, or I'm doing it through, on a press trip for Japan Tourism or Nagano Tourism, helped out and arranged some things. And then sometimes what we do is we shoot when they're about to. So usually, so ryokans kick everybody out in essence. You have breakfast the next morning, and then you're gone by 10. And then they clean the baths at 10. And then so they'll often say, okay, be here right at 10 o'clock, and you could shoot from 10 to 10:15, or you can shoot from 10 to 10:30. And so that's often the case. Situation like this was a roadside um, hot spring that was free. And so we just simply went in and we both did the bath. I always participate too. I love the hot springs. And so to answer that question, I love it. So this is a part of me. I found this is one of those rare things that can really keep me in the present, just like golf and photography. I'm really like when I'm in Ukraine in a couple of weeks, I'm right there in the present, and so I seek those moments out. And here's that sake tray.
yeah.
And whereas in the United States, if you're drinking in a hot tub, they'll kick you out. Sometimes they'll kick you out if you're not drinking in Japan, just about. You're
Oh, is that
party
right?
pooper. Well, that's not always the case at all. Not every place has you drinking, but it's definitely a different. It's and there's something called yukimi sake. Yukimi is snow gazing. Sake becomes sake in front of yukimi. So yukimi sake means drinking sake while snow gazing.
Mm.
It's like you have hanami, during the cherry blossom season, people go sit in the park and they, look at the cherry blossoms. So this is Yufuin. So once again, on the island of Kyushu, which a lot of people don't get to. And this is, once again, Ilford 3200. In the old days, I was shooting with an Nikon FM2, very simple setup. And this is not even a setup. I mean, Mika would not shoot nude outside the bath. Typically, she didn't want to be photographed that way, but she was getting ready for a night bath, and I just saw this happening, and it was just such a magical moment that I photographed it. And then later on, I showed her the image. I said, "Can I use this?" And she said, "Fine." I mean, she recognized the art in it. But this epitomizes, that cold water versus I'm sorry, hot water versus cold. And it's about 38 Celsius or so, 30, 40 Celsius. So
And Mark, going into this, I mean, you know that the
yeah,
location, everything is going to have like this element of natural beauty.
yeah.
Like what is the biggest challenge for you to make sure you capture that?
Well, first of all, the first time I ever went was with a girlfriend at Beppu, and I was meeting her in Tokyo. I had no idea about the hot springs at all, and so it was fortunately, she said, "Let's go to Beppu." I said, "Fine," but I didn't know anything about it, and then I discovered the magic of it. Um, but dealing with the steam, because in an inside bath, you get fogged up very, very, very quickly. And so it was actually a cameraman who had told me years ago, says heat up the front lens element with a dryer, hair dryer, and you'll get much more time to shoot before you fog up. Outside, it's not a problem, but inside it becomes a huge problem. And some fogging up of the lens is good, right?
Okay.
In other words,
Yeah.
it gives a little more mystical thing. But it can in an indoor bath can fog up very fast. I used to use seed drops, which you use on. I would put a filter on, and then put seed drops on that. What is what you use in a mask when you're skin diving or scuba diving. And so that's how I used to do it. But then it was a cameraman shooting an opening of a hot spring, and I saw what he was doing, and I said, "Wow, that is amazing." And so that would give me a roll about, and that's 36 shots in the old days before it just became too foggy. And so there's so many different types of baths. And so this is in Kyushu once again, and this is a sand bath. So this is from there's so much volcanic seismic activity in Japan, which of course gave us the tsunami, of March 2011 and of all the volcanoes, but it also gives us, all these hot springs, 20 to 30,000 hot springs around Japan. And so this is just naturally hot. Um, and so nowadays, there's many more foreigners coming into the bath, so much so that on many ryokans and hotels, they show you how to do it. And so this is written in Korean uh, and Chinese and English in order to help, first-time bathers. And so you can see, what to do. Like you see, uh, take your clothes off. You use what's called a tenugui, which is a small towel. The gentleman on the top right, is discreetly walking in with the tenugui covering his privates, uh, and then you pour the water over your shoulders typically, and that's not just to clean yourself, but also sort of you're getting your body used to the heat, to the hot water, because you really can faint if you just were to walk straight in from the cold right into the bath. You could really get lightheaded very quickly. And a question you asked earlier, and I didn't really answer it, typically like 3 minutes, something like that, you might be in, depending on how hot the water is. Then you'll sit on the side. Sometimes people put the tenugui, the small long towel, on top of your head. You dip it in the water for a second, and you fold it and you stick it on your head. Some people say that keeps you from getting too lightheaded. Other people think, oh, that's just a way to store it somewhere. Or you could just put it on the side of the tub. You really are not supposed to have anything at all. Sometimes you see younger people wrap themselves with a towel and go in, but you're really not supposed to do it that way. And then eventually, when you get out, you can rinse off again depending on the mineral content of the water. Some water you need to rinse off. Like up in Hokkaido, there's a place that has a lot of iron, which is not good to keep on your body. Other minerals you can keep on, and once you walk out of the bath, that's it.
And Mark, is that was that page actually in your book?
I did not have that page in the book. That's just a picture
Okay.
that I shot at a ryokan or a Japanese or maybe a Western inn that had baths. But here's the thing. So you check in, at the ryokan, you put on your yukata, and once you have your yukata on, you slip on your geta or your zori. You can have the big wooden clogs, or you can have more like the sandals like this. And then you head to the bath. And so already you're sort of in this, magical time. And this is a very old ryokan on the Nakasendo, which is one of the two ancient ways to get between Kyoto, the second capital of Japan, and Edo, which is now Tokyo. There was a Tokaido, which is more famous, but uh, road, and then there was the Nakasena, which was the interior road. And so they have a lot of these old ryokans still around that just date back hundreds of years. And so you make your way down the hallway, and so this is winter, so she's got not only the yukata underneath, but then I think it's tansen, I think is the name of the overcoat. And then you're greeted by a place to sit, a stool. You sit and you rinse off here. Or it could be like this is a place called the Hawaiians, which is in Fukushima. This was damaged by the 311 tsunami and earthquake, but is completely back open, running. But this is obviously the men's side of that location. Uh, so this is a big modern hotel. So that's different than from, the quiet sort of ryokan experience. Um, this is getting ready for the bath or after the bath in Tokyo. And this is a sento. Oh, I'm sorry. This is still an onsen because the water content is at a level that still makes it an onsen. But sentos, I said, don't have the mineral content and they heat up the water, but it's still a place that could look exactly like this.
And Mark,
Yep.
in these places, whether it's in the hotel or in a location, is it very quiet, or are people, in conversation, or give us a sense of, what that mood is?
Very, very quiet, very quiet. It's really supposed to be a meditative experience, but people are friendly enough, and there'll be some conversation since I'm a gaijin, and especially if I'm in the rural areas, people say, "Oh, where are you from?" So there'll be some polite, conversation like that, but it's not really a place for a big conversation, but it's not like a monastery or something.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be completely, but it would be a quiet little talk, if anything.
Now,
Uh,
would friends go there,
oh,
and
100%.
would people do business there, like on a golf course?
That's the amazing thing. It is companies often have retreats at ryokans, which is amazing. So just imagine so many of us are all freelance and stuff, but just imagine having your business associates, you're all naked together. And now what will happen though is you would have a men's side and a women's side. It would be unlikely that they would go to a konyoku for mixed bathing
Yeah,
for an
yeah.
office. That would be unlikely. But it's a place where everybody's sort of equal and relaxed and it it's so often is the case. But friends, college friends, all the time will have God, I can't speak English anymore. What happens when you get together years later? What's that called? Reunions.
Re-
Reunions.
Yes.
Yeah, reunions at hot springs. Like they'll meet once a year and they go to a
Right.
different hot spring each time. Or for birthdays. Yeah, so very, very, very common thing to do.
And
Yep.
so people who are more Western, like from Europe, the States, do you really stand out? I imagine you stand out, but is it frowned upon? I mean, or are there more for the Westerners, more places to go for Westerners?
Well, there's places like Hoshino, which is geared to sort of Japan light a little bit. So in other words, it has an English speaking staff, and they have baths, and there's Japanese there, but there's also Westerners there and people from other Asian countries, and so here the key thing is uh, the Japanese are most concerned about you respecting the etiquette, meaning
Mm.
the shoes go off. You don't, and I've seen so many times, Westerners walk in with shoes, and I get that completely. I've made a mistake or two before in my time, but you walk in without your shoes. You always rinse off before. That's probably the two biggest things. If you uh, take your shoes off, you rinse off before you go in, and then you cover yourself with a tenagui as you go in, and you're quiet. Then you've succeeded, and that's all that it takes. One thing to say though, most of the time there's signs saying no tattoos. The reason being that the Yakuza, the Japanese mafia, have tattoos. That's sort of one of the hallmarks. But those are really the full body tattoos. But what they basically did in order to keep the Yakuza from being in the hot springs uh, was to just simply have a rule: no um, God, Japanese keeps popping in now. Uh,
Tattoos.
no tattoos. And so there are actually these sort of big bandages that you could buy, like at the 100 yen store, 100 yen store, that you put on that are not as sticky as like a band-aid, if you hurt yourself, but they'll cover your tattoos. So
Well,
and so it's highly recommended that if anybody goes out and wants to experience it, but they're concerned because they have tattoos, even if they're, obviously very Western style, that you're not a member of the Japanese mafia. Uh, rules are rule, and Japan is famous for whatever the rule is. It's a good idea to have something to cover your tattoos for sure.
okay.
Yeah. And so I'm sorry. So this is the other side of the country, and so you have uh, Kyushu in the far south is one of the four home islands. Then you have Hokkaido in the north. And so this is Hokkaido looking out into what's called Jikokudani, which is Hill Valley. There's another Jikokudani, which is more famous, is where the snow monkeys are. But this is just such a magical
So a
Nice.
place like this has got to be exclusive, huh, Mark?
Yeah, I mean, but this is a gigantic hotel.
Okay.
This is a gigantic hotel. This is not that quiet, small, um, ryokan experience. This is a major, major hotel, maybe 7 floors, something like this, and the bath is on one of the higher floors. And yeah, they're all different types, but you can, but at its most basic, this is an amazing place. This is on a Noto Peninsula where you can actually dig a hole next to the um, this river, and you have a hot spring bath.
And how long are you usually in for a short time, right?
Depends
On the heat?
on the heat.
Okay.
You don't want to overstay. Like there's a place called Kusatsu, which is where the hottest water pretty much is. In fact, they believe for skin diseases, they have a special thing called timed baths. But I just touched the water with a finger and it was like, this is insane. It's just
That hot.
outrageous. But it's believed. I mean, there's definitely different types of minerals, different types of solutions for if you have uh, skin issues or you have so many different issues they believe are treated by the hot spring water. Um, like this is a tree trunk that's hollowed out, which is just, just for relaxation. It's just so, magical. This is a place where this is a built wall. This is not a real wall. This was created, but it's still the same sort of experience. And of course, then you get the sound addition to it. So, it's the whole thing. How many of you guys heard of forest bathing, Shinrin Yoku? Has anybody heard of that? It's a
Mhm.
Japanese thing that actually is fairly modern. People think of it, oh, it comes from the time of the haiku and basho walking around Japan. But Shinrin Yoku was actually invented by the Forestry Service to try to get people into nature. And it's about experiencing nature. But just imagine you're outside and you're hearing this water. All you do is just hearing the water and you're
Mm,
just laying there and the steam's coming up. You're not thinking
beautiful.
about the war in Ukraine. Remember, you said that was one of the things I had to
Yeah.
do to get to there, right? How could you think of anything else? You shouldn't be thinking about anything, right? Other than being in the
And,
present.
yeah.
Yeah.
And Mark, are there places like this that are noted for if you have a skin disease, if more medical, go here if you have a cancer, like
Oh,
any
100%.
history? Oh, there are.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, at 100. In fact, one of the last slides that I have here will show that. Not the places to go, but the types of water and the ailments that are there. So, yeah, anybody who wants to go for medicinal bathing, there's like a German institute that studies it. There's, of course, Japanese institutes. This is the Konyoku. This is my favorite place in Japan, and this is something where you can go just for the day, and it's called Tagaragawa in Guma Prefecture. Uh, but this is right that thing where then about 4 p.m. The people that are not staying overnight at the ryokan have to leave. But it's really magical. And so that's my friend Ari. I'm not sneaking up on anybody. Not from behind taking pictures.
Hey.
Ari, is there. But I just say to whoever I'm with, just do what you normally do.
Mm.
I mean, it was actually Mary Ellen Mark who said to me, she goes, you can't do better than reality. And I think that's really, you know,
And as far as sanitary, it's what you described before. Wash off before you go in, wash off when you leave.
100%.
Right. Very.
And,
It's very simple, but everyone abides by that, of course.
yeah, and that's the huge thing that they're concerned when they see Westerners coming in or people from, well, Chinese and Koreans have a bathing culture as well. In fact, I remember many years ago, there was a great Chinese movie about it. Um, and so, yeah, so they're really more concerned with Westerners about just not only respecting in a sense of, respecting culture, but more importantly, from a hygienic point of view, wash first, then go in. So this is an example where we were in Takaragawa. So Mika is in the foreground, and I did want to photograph on the other side because they had the Buddha there, and so Mika asked the two women here, "Is it okay, if my husband comes over, and take some pictures?" And they said, "Fine." And so that's the sort of way we would we would do things because obviously I have to be more, sensitive if I'm going to go over to the women's side. And this is my friend Ari um, in the
So,
water. Yep.
Mark, is there anything that is sort of confusing in that all these people, like as far as the Japanese are concerned, how they are, right? Whatever those cliches are,
Yeah,
to be so open and being able to bathe together, and then when they're doing business or they're playing sports or they're dating, is it so different? Like, how could you be so free here and so wired tight here?
that's a
Is
great
there a
question.
contrast? Because obviously when you go to these places, I mean, it's so free. It's so freeing, of your life experience. And now, how would those same people be, wired tight in their offices or living on top of each other?
That's an amazing thing. It's true. Yeah, in business, Japanese are famous for no wiggle room at all. But that's what makes the trains, on time and things like that. But I wouldn't say, like this situation right here, this is not like Woodstock. You know
Yeah,
what I-
yeah.
So
No,
even here,
but it has that kind of feeling. You hit it
right,
right on the
it does, but it's still not Woodstock, if that makes any sense at all. In other words,
head.
um, and this was shot earlier this year. This is just to show you how many years this has been going on from 92, and then this is now 2025. This is shot, either with my Leica, Q2 or my Nikon, can't remember which one for this shot. But and I told the guys, uh, I didn't set them up at all. It's like, just, do you mind if I take pictures? And, yeah, okay, fine, no problem. And of course, I'm saying it in Japanese because most people outside of Tokyo don't speak English, and even in Tokyo, they might have studied it, but only a few words. But there's still sort of a respect and a quietness and somewhat of a conservative feel in certain ways. But Japanese are much more open and enjoy jokes and conversation and socializing than than it's portrayed. But it's done in a sort of quieter way. I mean, if you go to Japanese bars and hang out with people, that's what I remember my first show in 1992 for Nikon in Tokyo. I went, the guy we set up the exhibition, and he sort of looked at his watch and he said, "Do you have time for a drink?" I mean, we were best friends by the time we left the bar 4 hours later, and I don't even know how I got back to the hotel. But and drinking actually is used a lot for that type of breaking the ice kind of thing. And so I would say people are a lot more open and can be relaxed than one would think from the outside view.
Right. So, Mark, would you say this is like one of your photo projects, your photo experiences where you learned or you had to learn so much of the culture of the people more than other situations? Because this is all very intimate. There's a lot of nuance to it. There's so much going on here that it becomes your responsibility to know this.
100%. In other words, if I didn't speak Japanese to a decent level, there's no way in the world I could ever do
Mm.
this. It just simply wouldn't happen. I mean, who's this gaijin, with a camera showing up? But all of a sudden, the people really appreciate that I could speak at a pretty decent level. Uh, I do understand the culture, having been married, to Mika, but also just studying. And my degree in history, I think my master's at all, and was a lot of study in Asia. It definitely has all played into it. You can't be an expert on everything. I mean, I did, with my North Korea project, and I've been gone to North Korea 10 times for the book, and I really put in study to understand that, and also went and learned Korean to a decent level. I do believe that for super long-term projects, that's how much you have to put in. Um,
Mm. Can
but
you compare this to any other project that you've ever done?
Well, in terms of long-term projects, I think the time I devoted to Korea,
Yeah.
uh, but that of course was straight reportage.
Right.
No sort of mise en scène kind of approach to that at all. Um, e- I mean, certain things. I mean, obviously, like when you shoot the Olympics or the Dodgers, you have to know the game. Well, I already knew baseball really well already. Olympics, some of the sports I was covering, didn't quite know, but I could pick it up pretty quickly. I think if you want to do anything at the highest level, you really should go all in. But
Mhm.
if you're constantly doing travel stuff and you're going from one country to another, you can't speak every language, everywhere. But I think, when you look at people like my hero, like uh, W. Gene Smith, his famous photo essays. Look at the time he put in. I mean, when you look at Minamata, which was the mercury poisoning going into, the Bay of Minamata Bay. Ironically enough, in the island of Kyushu, where the same baths are, right? That's but the southern part. Look how much time he put in and how much devotion into that. Or when he did Country Doctor or Spanish Village, he really immersed himself in that. Or if you look at Mary Ellen Mark and the time, she put in for Indian Circus or the prostitutes of Mumbai. Um, you really get in there. And so this is with, I do remember this being with a Leica Q2, and this is a friend of mine. Because obviously I'm not going to show up and there's some woman, in the bath sitting there. It's like, oh, can I take a picture? Amazingly enough, though, there was a person there who saw us taking some pictures, and she goes, "Do you mind if I get in the bath too?" I said, "Yeah, go ahead." I said, "Do you mind if I shoot while?" She goes, "Yeah, that's fine." So it's really interesting. But then sometimes people say, "Oh, you can just shoot from the back or something like that," which sure, that's great. Um, I mean, look at this, just the design, and of course, Japanese, architecture. Like I did something for Vanity Fair. Was it this year or last year with Ando Tadao, who's one of the most famous Japanese architects. And you guys, if you're interested in architecture, I would highly suggest reading that interview. He is such a genius, the way he articulated his his why he does what he does, and he uses a lot of concrete, which doesn't seem like a Japanese material. But look at this beautiful bath, and you can experience the different seasons there. And once again, this is Takaragawa but this time in the winter. So just imagine that, just being out there in the winter, you could hear the water just about. This is Hoshi, which is what this building is from the 1800s. And so this is the exterior. So just imagine showing up in this place. And some of these places are really not that easy to get to at all, which is a good thing these days. Just imagine with all the stuff going on that you have a few days here, no TV. Um, you show up here, you change into your yukata, and then you end up in here, right? I mean, that's just a pretty nice feeling. And then you eventually get out and you have dinner either in your room, uh, with a big bottle of sake and, served in a very traditional way, or you might be in a small communal room. Um, Now, this is actually by another famous Japanese architect who in Ginzan Onsen, and this is shot in the digital days. But you can see, I'm not trying to. No, Salgado would add some grain to try to balance out his old like Africa photos, for instance, with newer photos for the book or his Genesis project. Uh, I don't do that. If this is sharper, that's fine. I don't mind that the old stuff with film is a lot of digital grain and these days with these sensors, they're so amazing. Um, but this is just my friend Sachiko just getting in a bath. I wasn't saying, okay, get in slowly, do that. I just do what you do. Just normally do what you do. This is in Ozawa, which is a very famous um, ski resort, and they have free hot springs, and you can get stamps at each one, so you can go to all seven or 11,
Mhm.
in between your ski runs. But once again, look at that snow and what it does with the steam coming
Yeah.
up. This is Shima. And just, trying to be a little clever with a camera on a tripod, and Mika's walking.
Yeah. So these last few ones are more private.
Well, this one is private. The last one, Nozawa, anybody can walk in. It just happened to be one guy there when I went in. Because Nozawa, it could be packed, and it has been packed when I've been there before. Um, Actually, I remember they have what's it called? Onsen tamago, which is tamago is a egg, but where they put because I remember in Ozawa, that ski resort, and it's very common. People will boil eggs in hot spring water and then sell them. So that's something that people love to buy
Wait a
the
second. So
onsen tamago.
it's that hot that you could boil an egg?
Oh, yeah, well, they might boil it in they're not sticking it in a hot spring where you're bathing in. They're doing it with another one because often the water has to sort of be brought down in temperature. The water coming
Yeah.
from the earth is so hot that
Really?
sometimes they'll have to do something to get it down to about 40 Celsius or so. But look at this. So this guy is doing uh ukimi, which is snow gazing. And I mean, how great is that just to be sitting there and just imagine the cold wind and the sound.
Mm.
And this is Jikokudani. So a lot of you guys, I think you probably remember the photo by Art Wolf. He's probably the first Westerner to really shoot the snow monkeys, and that got kind of famous. But what's interesting is the way that happened was this old ryokan in Jikokudani in Hell Valley. The snow monkeys used to just come into the human baths. And so what the ryokan did is they decided, well, let's build a bath for the snow monkeys and discourage them from coming in with the humans because snow monkeys um, use it for everything.
Right. So, Mark,
If that makes sense at all.
so if we're in one of the baths and it's a
Yeah.
husband and wife,
Yeah.
would there be like anyone would do like if you're on the beach that you'd hug each other? Is that
Oh, no, no, no,
can't
no,
do that?
no, no. In fact, this is Mika, and she's got the towel underneath, which is not the perfect etiquette there. But sometimes in these konyoku and the mixed bathing, a younger woman will have a bigger towel, not just the tenagui, which is the very small towel, for modesty. Um, but so that's a little bit more of a modern thing. But then, of course, the goal when you go to Jikokudani, and this is up the valley slightly more from that ryokan, is the bath that was created for the snow monkeys. And they're not coaxed in, though they are given apples and things. So it's become a bit of a tourist thing where where there's some food provided for them to keep encouraging them year round to come in. But they love the hot spring water. They hug each other all the time.
Okay.
They didn't get the memo. They're on top of each other all the time. They'll also kick out younger ones or ones that they're mad at. In
Okay.
other words, they're
Very
very sort of
territorial.
territorial. Oh, 100%. And this one I just did, but I love the bouffant right here, right? And so this is the one that just was in the exhibition for Leica, and it's that split second. You talk about you were asking about the techniques I use to shoot, you still have to have the reflexes of sports or wildlife for some things. I mean, obviously, I'm not going to get into a staring contest with any animal, but this is just that split second when he or she happened to look at me for one split second. But I'm really drawn, no matter what I shoot, rather, whether it's like Street Kids in Hanoi when, first time I was there in 1992. I really love that eyes are the window to the soul type of image of people and animals around the world, that we're really able to see or glimpse perhaps, into the soul of when we get this sort of eye contact, but it really is a split second.
And are they dangerous, Mark?
Well, the big problem in Japan right now are bears. I mean, there's a huge problem with bears right now. In fact, somebody was attacked and killed while cleaning a bath in a I think in the Tohoku area, which is where the tsunami had come in. There's not enough acorns for whatever reason, and there's video footage of this bear sort of standing up against the 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 sliding door petition, and obviously by accident, opened it up, goes in and drags the guy off.
Wow.
Yeah, fortunately they don't show obviously dragging off, but they showed how the bear got in. This is Dogo in Shikoku, which is very famous uh, onsen as well. This is the oldest one on record, which is from 700 AD, which is right around Nara was the first capital of Japan, and for less than 100 years than Kyoto, and that's why so many people go to Kyoto. But in Nara, those who have been there, the oldest, the big wooden Buddha is still there. And then, fortunately, during World War II, Nara and Kyoto were off limits for bombing, and so they were basically open cities like Rome, and so they're largely intact, though modern Japan has overgrown most of it. But this place, Tamatsukuri, um, dates back to 700 something AD. And this is a shot of my friend Eri in Tamatsukuri. And this is a modern take on onsen in that same area, Tamatsukuri. Uh, and just to talk about technique, I
Mm.
tried different things. I tried the Nikonos for some shots. Didn't have any luck with that. So I found just, again, a very simple underwater bag for the FM2. Nikon FM2 is good. And then in more recent times, I got the Leica underwater camera. And I don't know if anybody's ever played with a Leica underwater camera. It's fantastic. They don't make it anymore because it leaks, but other than the leak, it works. And because I don't go in any real depth, I don't put pressure on it.
Right.
It works fine. It's a fantastic camera, and so that's really my two go-to cameras these days. But I love that over underwater, uh, approach. Um, and just so there's an act of a different type of intimacy, but this just shows something you might not normally see, in a Japanese culture, but it's really a part of it. But here's the tenugui on top of the hat, top of the head.
Mm.
So that's more, and this is at Ilford, 3,200 days. Um, and this is an acupressure thing and it shows you what's wrong with your body. And if I were to believe it, everything is bad in mine. That
That's me.
You too, right? If you feel, but I think it might be more to it than that. But it hurts. I don't know if I can say it hurts good or whatever the expression is, but
So good.
maybe it stimulates the parts that we need um stimulated. And so this is what Frank, we were talking about. So this is different types of water, and this is what supposedly it's good for. You could see the
Right.
tessen, the iron. There is a radioactive one. In fact, one of the baths where I photographed is, in fact, I might have a photo of it as well, and you can see what it says it's good for. In fact, in that same place where they have the radioactive baths, they have the Madame Curie Matsuri, which is festival once a year since Madame Curie and you know uh the whole thing with radiation um or radioactivity that she discovered. Am I confusing things? Yeah, no, she found isotopes or something. That's a whole other thing. But anyway, so this is Kusatsu. This is the place where the water is insanely hot. Just unbelievable. And so this is a guy doing the timed bathing for his skin. And see how he's holding on to the sides, trying to not move at all?
Mm.
It is so insanely hot. Um,
And how long can you stay in that one, Mark?
oh, they're trying to, and they're timing it. They have a bath person standing near the person and timing it. I don't know if they're trying to stay up to 5 minutes, but it is cruel. It is beyond belief.
That'll
Um,
clean your pores out, right?
Oh, for sure. Whether it works or not, I mean, it's been going on so long, could be. But here's the amazing thing is, right, you think about the conservative,
Right.
Japanese culture, whatever, but this is in as public as you can be. And I purposely waited till
For
a
the
bus
bus.
came by. These guys completely just doing their own thing. I'm not telling them have a conversation or whatever, but I was very aware of the traffic on the bridge, and there was a car, but it was too low. But of course, it was great that a bus came by. Oh, this is the radioactive one. This is in the town where they have the radioactive bath and that water. And this is imbibing it. So it's supposedly good to drink the water from some hot springs, depending on the mineral content. Um, and this is not a form of torture, but and this was kind of fun. The guy had, with his glasses steaming up. And so that's the way my lens would have been if I didn't do that technique, with the
So there's steam underneath that, Mark?
oh yeah, it's a steam box.
Steam
Oh yeah,
box. Okay.
deep box, and you don't have too many of those. That probably is the only place I think I've ever seen that style. But that's the great thing. And this is Naoshima, and some of the people that are on tonight might know Naoshima. That's the art island, and so for those that are really into art, Ando Tadao or Tadao Ando, depending if you want to pronounce it Japanese way or English way. Um, uh, Designed the museums, but then there's different art installations. And so this is an art installation of a Western hot tub in sort of a rock garden kind of thing. But this is in Naoshima, and you're invited to go into the bath if you feel like being part of art.
Hmm.
And so that's what
And
we
Mark,
did.
all these places, they're maintained, cleaned out, daily. So it's all safe to go in there.
Hopefully. Um, there is that concern because remember, you can't use chlorine or
Right.
anything. And so it's about water recycling. Occasionally you do have um, articles, saying about an issue somewhere. Obviously it was a big concern during COVID about how they did things and they really spaced out how many people could be at a place at a certain time. But this is once again all over Japan. This is Sado Island, which faces the Sea of Japan, or if you're Korean, you would call it the East Sea. And there's obviously points of contention over some of the islands there. But this is very famous. This is Nyuto. So this is a konyoku, mixed bathing, and the water once again has a whiteness to it
Mm.
because of the mineral content. This is the same place, and this is in winter. This is Nyuto in winter. I mean,
Absolutely magical.
it is magical, and it really is no less magical than when you're there. In other words, sometimes you see a photo and it's not quite what it is. This really is. And even more so because you're feeling the cold wind, the timelessness of it. There's probably not a TV around anywhere on purpose, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So an experience like this really has to change you, right? In some spiritual way, right? To experience this and you going back all the time and documenting this, this must be really a labor of love in its purest sense.
Oh, 100%. 100%. It's not a commercial undertaking, though it has been commercially very, excuse me, successful. I do it because I love the Japanese hot spring experience. Um, and I love the resulting photos. I like the quietness of it. It's mentally, spiritually, very grounding.
Mm. So
Sure.
putting together a book on this body of work
Yeah.
versus any other body of work that you put a book together,
Yeah.
is it more difficult? Is it do you feel yourself more passionate about this versus that book?
Um, it's interesting. Ever since I remember when I did my first book, and I don't know if any of you guys have seen my other books at all. I'll just say it very quickly. My first book in 1998 was Abbeville Press. It was my interviews, excerpts of interviews with famous photographers like Alfred Eisenstadt, Helmut Newton, Annie Leibovitz, all sorts of great photographers. And I was surprised how easy it was to put together. First of all, I had a great editor at Abbeville, but secondly, from having done a master's thesis and all the work that it took to do a master's thesis in history that I illustrated with photos. I mean, it was a special major I created called Pictorial Documentary History, and I focused on Boston. But having done that, I really understood how to put a big project together. And so when it came to to doing his first book uh, in 1998, it just wasn't that tough. But of course, having a great um, editor was the big thing. And so then the second book was about my travel stuff called Wunderlust. Third was The Way the Japanese Bath, which is now, four editions. And then since then, I did a book on Iran, two books on North Korea, then a how-to book. That was the hardest book. The how-to book was 65,000 words, and if somebody said, "Hey, do you want to do that now?" I'm not sure. That was a lot of work. But these are labor of love. And the key thing is, and for you guys who want to do your own book, get a designer. That's probably the most important thing to do. Very few photographers are competent enough, even if you're doing a blurb book, get a designer. They're not much money necessarily, and it's worth it. First of all, it's not only a second set of eyes, but they know how to use fonts. uh, Photographers tend to be way too horsey with fonts. Designers sometimes are too mousy with them, but usually they're really great. So I would highly recommend. And blurb is such, and I do blurb books as a test before we do the real book, and because I created my own publishing company after having worked with Abbeville Press and Chronicle Books for two books and um, Reagan Books and others. So I've done like now 15 books or something like that. So, and then I'll show this for people who came in later. This is the latest edition right here with the bone clips that are plastic. But yeah, so
Mark,
no, it hasn't been that tough.
yeah, can you just mention that Iran book, the name of the Iran book
It's
again?
called, it's called Inside Iran, and that's Chronicle Books. That was a follow-up to Inside North Korea. Uh, which, if anybody wants to see my North Korea stuff, I recommend not getting Inside Iran. I'm sorry, Inside North Korea. The newer book called just North Korea is much stronger because that's from going back further, and it won the IPA Book of the Year
And Mark,
2020. Yeah.
can we get these books on your website or is it all through Amazon?
Amazon's the easiest way to get them.
Okay.
Amazon's easy. I'm not really set up. I mean, Leica Gallery LA has them. It just came out, and so they'll start getting into more places. But I would say, even though Amazon likes to take 55%,
Hmm.
um, I got to pay for Jeff Bezos, moon programs and stuff, evidently. But
Wedding.
yeah, but it works. I have worldwide distribution, and so
Okay.
that's the thing, and so but I would say for people that want to do something, check out Blurb and do something, a one-off. It's a good way to test things out and see uh how you want to do something uh and maybe shop it around to a traditional publisher. That's one way, to do it. So this once again is Ginzan, and she's doing Yukimi. There's no sake there, so it's just Yukimi. And I decided this photo really epitomized what I love about the Japanese onsen. And so then, even though I had Beppu, um, for three editions of the book, I
Right.
thought it was time to mix it up. And so I think this one, really gets the feeling across. If you can't feel relaxed in this situation, then, you know.
Something's wrong. And do you sell prints, Mark?
Oh yeah, we just had a show at Leica that did really well, and
Yeah,
we made
great.
some really big uh, prints. Funny enough, the snow monkey shot sold a couple of those. Was probably maybe the best seller out of all of them. And then this shot, and then one other shot. So it was actually a portrait shot I did of myself that's not in the book with a model, with the girl that I was shooting. And so this is, yeah, just in a bath. Uh, I mean, how great is this once again? I guess for Jay, Jay, somebody's waiting in the waiting room. Looks like if he can hit the let in. Or Frank, do you have the
Yeah,
other?
he got it.
Good, good. So yeah, this is near Newto Onsen once again. Newto's probably one of the nicest places. Well, they're all fantastic, but Newto's very popular. But look at this, where you could be, and this is a private bath, and so you could be in a private bath, in the warmth of a private bath. And actually, there's a door to the left here where you can go outside into the snow, and it is just piled up so high. And so then you can retreat after really being exposed as much as you can be to exposed to the elements, and then come back in.
And
So
Mark, do you do your own prints?
no, no, I have a printer, my guy named Roger at the Sammy's Camera Service Bureau, who's a fantastic printer. Yeah, I don't print my own. That's Ichigo Yuzawa, the last shot. Ichigo Yuzawa is very famous. Have any of you guys heard of a book called Snow Country? Uh, by it's called Yukiguni in Japanese. Um, a very famous author did that. And so yeah, I think reading Japanese, books as well has this is Hoshino. So this is the one where I talked about a place that's sort of where East meets West. In other words,
Mm,
they're very Western friendly, meaning that they have English speaking staff.
okay.
Um, and so this is a mise en scène kind of setup. This is actually the same, my friend Nikki in three shots. So this is probably the only thing that's really digitally created in the sense that I had the camera on a tripod and just had her, do the bath. I just shot it and then we just compiled the three separate shots. So obviously needed a tripod, for this. No lighting, just the ambient, lighting. But it just would have been too dull to have just one person in the shot. And so to sort of have the whole sequence of doing the bath, I think was much more, interesting this way. And then after the bath, what do you do? Well, you head back to your room, and so in this case, a ryokan in the southern island of Kyushu, and you can go outside into the courtyard and get some air. And this is, obviously, this is sort of like a fine art approach to it.
Yeah.
Sachiko knew I was there. I had her stand on the other side, but this is just, getting some air. Can you imagine just standing out looking at the garden and hearing the wind after a bath? I mean, it's just, you know, and this is Mika. This is in a yukata, so this is during the summer, and so you can see the difference. But this is the cotton robe that you wear to get to and from the bath. And then in bigger places like Noboribetsu, um, they have these massage chairs that are fantastic. Um, and just, here's people just enjoying the massage chairs after bath, and of course, sometimes the husband or the wife takes longer, and so this is a great place to wait for them. And then you're back in your room and you can get ready for your kaiseki meal. You can you have some tea and this is actually not a setup shot. This is Mika uh in a sort of an ante room, I guess you would call it, through a shoji screen that has a circle, a moon cut in it, and she's drinking tea and in freezing weather as well. And so I just want to take you for the last part, just a little history of the Japanese bath again. And so before World War II, Japan Rail made a series of books to introduce Western culture. I'm sorry, introduce Japanese culture to the West, and so so people could travel by train, and so they'd have it on all sorts of things about Japan, and one of them was the hot springs of Japan. And it's incredible to think that this was in the 1930s, so this is before, World War One or World War Two, before the entrance of the U.S. in 1941 into World War Two. Um, and so Japan, very quickly, from the 1860s on, really got involved with the West, as you guys know, but still was keeping the Japanese culture. And so here's, a spread from the book, Hot Springs of Japan. And look at this bath. This is at the Fujiya Hotel, which was really the first Western hotel, uh, a hotel designed for Westerners in Japan. And John Lennon, supposedly this was his favorite hotel, and Yoko Ono. But look at the photo below. That 1930s, you could be in the bath just like that. And then this blows me away. Uh, this is now 70 years later, and it's the same bath, pretty much the same as this. That meant you could have hung out here the whole war, not had any particular awareness of what was going on. Of course, you could. Of course, there were things going on, but there was no bombing, fighting in this area at all. But that this structure is just like that all these years later, and it just, as a student of history, that just blows me away. Um, and you can see here, th this book is actually published by that hotel, and my book is loosely designed after that in terms of the bone clips. And there's so many editions of this book dating to, I believe, the late 1800s called We Japanese about etiquette, all ghost stories. There's a guy, Lafcadio Hearn, who brought Japanese ghost stories to the West. But even if you're just in Tokyo, you can experience something of the Japanese bath. This is at a Western hotel, but that does have the bath, not with actual hot spring water. This is, once again in Tokyo with an amazing view.
Mm.
And just a quote that I think is really appropriate, about that.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, and this really is sort of, what you were talking about earlier about the contemplative. I guess some people say contemplative, but I can't quite say that. But this really kind of,
Bespoke.
yeah, like bespoke. There's two words we were struggling with today. And I did want to let everybody know. So this is what we alluded to earlier. There's a link. If you can't find it, if anybody's interested, I'll be in Nagano Prefecture around the Nakasenda, which, as I said, was the road. And it's a very small group, maybe 7 people. I think we're limiting it to that. And we drive around in a van. George Nobici drives the van. He's the other photographer. He's a Fuji ambassador, Nikon, not ambassador, but I work with all sorts of stuff, as I said, like as well. So it doesn't matter. It's not about the camera. Um, all cameras are welcome. But there's a link in the chat and then in my website, which is just my name. And that's my Instagram if anybody is interested. Should we open up if there's any questions at
Yeah,
all?
if anyone has any questions, now would be the time. If you want to raise your hand, raise your hand. Or if you want to put it in the chat room, then I can read it. But I've been reading the questions as we were going, Mark. So, Mark, show us your jacket.
Oh yeah. So let's see if I
And
can.
I just want everyone to know I've taken off my pants. I'm
Exactly.
naked.
That's a very
Sit
common
down.
thing, right? Yeah. You wouldn't be the first, and I better slip my pants back on before I stand up. But okay.
Yeah.
So this is a Sukajan.
Mm,
This was just
What's on the back?
mm,
Beautiful.
thank you. Yeah, this was something that really came out of the occupation, so World War II obviously ended 1945. And then for souvenirs, one was sort of designed at first for like this is somebody that was in occupation and they wanted a souvenir jacket.
mm.
But then it became much more than that. And with all sorts of designs, this is not anything World War II on it, obviously. I don't I wouldn't that that wouldn't be me. But this is
Right.
all about, Mount Fuji, and just it's just so beautiful. And so this was a birthday present a couple of years ago from my
Mm.
friend Sachiko. So I wear it on special occasions. It's not my daily. I'm not Fonzie, going out,
Wow.
doing
You're
something.
really dating yourself there.
No, I'm dating. I'm dating myself. This
Get the
is
comb.
Bond.
Get the comb, right?
yeah, I could but do that. That's funny. Yeah, I should put something in my hair and like brush it back or something.
Mm, mm.
But go ahead.
Yeah. So how many pages are in the book, Mark?
That's a great question. I think is it 220 or 174? It's
Wow.
pretty thick. Let me see. I should know that answer. Let's see. 188 plus times water. So it looks just about maybe 194
Wow.
or so. And yeah, there it is. And so there's now, I guess, with this latest run, 6,000 copies.
Wow.
Yeah,
Total
it's
of
done
the
well. Total,
of
total, total,
wow.
all four, and it's just
Wait, 6,000 across the different
four.
book,
Right,
or
right. So in other words, right?
6,000 of this one because it's doing
No,
so
no, no, no.
well. Of the fourth one, you did 6,000. Yeah.
1,000 of this one, the latest one. This was third edition, which looks just like the second edition, but different photos. Each time it keeps progressing. Couple of things, I mean, a number of new photos in the fourth edition, besides a new cover. This might have been 2000. Um,
And Mark, when you say
yeah.
new photographs, is that going back to the archive or new images that you shot or
New
both?
images that I shot.
Okay.
And occasionally I'll take a photo that I did from before, and
Mm.
I thought, well, through time, I remember an angle that I think I like better after all.
Right.
So it's an evolution. So I think there's like 12 new images in the latest one. You know,
And they're in the box on your right behind you, right?
yeah, that's part of the reason they're just 1,000 print run. I mean, I really learned. It's great, an ideal thing, like if you have a great publisher because they have a PR mechanism. But I really learned, having done stuff with great PR people, with Abbeville Press, in English, German, French, um, great editor with Chronicle Books. Kelly Wursler is an interior designer. I worked on a few of her books with like Reagan Books, and there was just so many different publishers. I learned really, if I want something exactly on my own, and also talking with people like Ralph Gibson and William Klein. William Klein was a great designer though, so William Klein's a little different, but he really wanted things exactly how we wanted to have them. But
And
I learned how to. Key thing was getting a great designer, and now with Amazon, in spite of them taking too much of a percentage, um, it, it's a great way to go. Then you get exactly what you want.
two questions. So which edition is now available to purchase? Can you purchase all of them? And which one would you recommend to get?
Oh, fourth edition for sure. I don't think you can get.
Okay.
I think that Amazon might have three or four of the third edition left, but the fourth edition, it is just I won't say expansion because same amount of pages, but actually there's two more images in the last one because we took something out. But it has new images, so I 100% would say fourth edition for sure.
And do
Uh,
you always print at the same place, Mark?
yeah, I see the question right
Yeah.
there. Let me look at that again. That's an excellent question. And you guys, feel free to pick my brain on this because I know that's of interest to all you guys. Uh, Okay, so I have in China. I've printed. So I had a book before that about orangutans that was named Wildlife Photography Book of the Year, I think 3 years ago. In fact, Sandro and I were against each other for Book of the Year. That was a
All
funny
right.
thing. But that book was done in Korea because I was concerned about the embargo and stuff, which actually has turned out not to be so bad at all for China. I was concerned about how much it was going to increase the cost, but it wasn't too bad. But key thing is have a
Day.
great printer. Yeah, have a great printer. And so ours is in China. If somebody wants to do a book and they want to know, Oceanic Graphic Press, they have an office in New Jersey. They're great to work with. Key thing is have a great designer who knows what they're doing, and you work super closely with them. I picked the paper, I picked everything. I have a good sense of design. I wouldn't dare design something myself, but I know how to work with a designer to get exactly what I want. And so I haven't. So one time I did a with a Korean publisher for the orangutan book, and they did an excellent job. But because my files for this book are in China, and we're just swapping out images, and they already know what I want and they can get it within range. It's much better to stick with somebody you already know, and it's way cheaper than doing it in the US. And I know nowadays somebody was just telling me they were doing a book, and all of a sudden the publisher said um, they wanted $35,000 from the person. So it's like this pay to play thing. And so
Mm.
it's like where I was very fortunate when I did the books on Iran and Korea for Chronicle Books, I got a 10,000 advance from each, plus then a percentage, and same thing for the faces of the 20th century master photographers and their work. But then, I think initially I probably tried to shop the Bath book around and wasn't going anywhere. And I thought, okay, I'm just going to do it. And it's definitely been, well, the North Korea book's been very successful, but all my books have actually done well. But um, my favorite, if I had to pick one, just like you have a favorite grandkid, Frank?
I would not say that on air.
Exactly. See, exactly. But I would say the Hot Spring book, if I could only have one book, it would be that. Though I would say the most important book for me initially was the book on photographers, because that opened up a whole world for me, because of the awards it won and all the people I got to work with,
Mm.
who became my mentors in a sense. I'm pretty fortunate to have the who's who of photographers. I learned from all of them. So that's been great. But yeah, I would say so. The printer is Oceanic Graphic Press, I believe it. You guys can always send me a note directly through my website, if you want. But it's in the front of the book as well. Um, and a guy named Alex is my guy that I talk with. And you basically you put a mock-up together, you have them take a look at it, and they can give you uh, an estimate. You really should print at least 1,000 books to make it more cost effective. Then
The first one's the most expensive, right? The others are all cheaper.
well, and then the thing, if you do like a 2,000 print run, then of course per unit it comes down. It's not necessarily, I mean, you could do 10 books and the 10th book might be the most expensive. It just depends what you want. Of course, I have to do duotone. I remember even with Chronicle Books, I'm sorry, with Abbeville Press, the first time they wanted to do halftones instead of duotones, and I said, no way. We're going to be reprinting, Helmut Newton, Alfred Eisenstadt, Annie Leibovitz, Carl Meidens, Joe Rosenthal. I mean,
All
just
Maidens, yeah.
everybody. Carl, just great photographer, underrated because he was in the shadow of
Man,
Eising.
you said that you took the words right out of my mouth. Carl Maidens
Well,
is
no,
like
because I saw your reaction, right? Yeah,
it's
he
just not
was.
fair. It's
Well,
not fair.
he didn't mind, he just, Izzy was the star. You guys all know who we're talking about, I'm sure. Alfred Eisenstadt, who did the Kissing Couple in Times Square, but Carl, who did the MacArthur Coming Ashore, you know, amazing life. He was in a Japanese prison camp in the Philippines. Um, Shot, for the FSA.
A vision shared.
Yeah, just so much stuff. Uh,
Incredible.
Great, but he always was in the shadow of Izzy, but really didn't mind.
And Dorothea Lange and
Of course.
all of them, yeah.
Yeah, and then Gordon Parks is in my book as well, just to be with Gordon, and hear his amazing stories. I always recommend Voices in the Mirror for anybody who has a teenager. If you want them to see how to overcome stuff and just rise above stuff, Voices in the Mirror is an amazing book about Gordon Parks and how he just rose above stuff. And
Mm.
so he's excerpted in that Faces of the 20th Century book too.
Yeah,
The all
there's
amazing folks, right, Amy? That's 100% right. And that's I'm not naming all 20. I've gone on to do about 600 interviews or so for all these different magazines. And that ties into my love of history. So once again, you talk about, is there a connection in there? So it's
Mm.
not simply, and of course, when I do the interviews, we're not going into what kind of camera you shot. Of course, include that. People want to know that, and that is interesting. But it's really about, I mean, to know that, Izzy, how he got out of Germany because he was a, soldier in World War I and actually shot through the leg, and he had me feel his leg to feel, right where the British round went through his leg. I mean, that's just
Yeah.
incredible, right? And he goes, make sure you spell my name right. And I said, oh, for sure. He goes, okay, how do you spell it? It's like, wow. So Izzy, like, right, because it's AEDT, boy, and
Get that wrong, boy. You only do
yeah,
that once.
exactly. You don't want to make that mistake with Izzy. But just so many amazing people, and I'm so fortunate. I don't use the word luck because luck is pure chance, and if we're just
You
like all
create
of us. right. We all work hard, or we
It's
wouldn't we
yeah.
wouldn't be here otherwise.
So, a body of work like this, Mark, does it ever end?
No, this will never end. Though, I've been in so much hot water in a good way that I started out this project at 6'3". Now I'm 5'7", and I'll probably end up about 4'11" by the time I'm done. Just all this just keeps shrinking from all this
Uh,
hot water. But no, it doesn't. And if I could get back to North Korea, I would do it
yeah,
in a second. There's complications about that, which is a whole other
yeah.
thing. But no, when you devote yourself to something like this, just like the interviews with photographers, I've slowed down a little bit maybe, but that continues on. I think when you really find things that you love, you can keep going back to it and expanding upon it. There are
And
other
it's nice.
projects.
Yeah, and it's nice to have these different lanes to jump into, right? That you really love doing,
Oh
right?
yeah, 100%.
North Korea, the baths, the photographers, opportunity comes you right in it. That's great.
And they all, well, just like, and sometimes you have to react very quickly, like all of a sudden, um, with the tsunami, and happening. I was in Canada shooting a commercial job for Coca-Cola, and my dad left a message saying you might want to put on the news, and because Miko was over in Japan at the time, and I looked on and I saw the waves coming in. I tried to figure out the time to see if I was seeing them live or if it was a couple hour delay, and I think it was actually delayed, but it was first time I was seeing it. And I got over there as fast as I could. I had to do something with Art Wolf in China very quickly, but I'd say 2.5 weeks after I was already in Japan, and all of a sudden, we had a 7.1 earthquake, or 7.3 or 7.1, and I was in Sendai, and basically the epicenter was right under a hotel, and it's like wow, from seeing it on TV to all of a sudden be in it, and then all of a sudden the tsunami sirens are going off, and it's like wow, I guess I'm really here, and there's nothing scarier than a earthquake.
Yeah,
Just if you guys, for those that have been in, if you anything when it gets to 7 and above, I can't imagine how it was to be in the 9, which Japan was, that the one on 311. Um, but yeah, just like, so, but yeah, sometimes you have to react quickly. In other words, the bath thing, I can pace it. We did, I think last time we did something on the ice. Um, the photos when they were burning the Waymo cars or Waymo, however you pronounce it. Remember we did that?
yeah.
Uh, um, that's when you just have to, it's not part of a long series, but that's just a quick reaction that you have to, do something. So you have to be flexible, ready to change, directions in a moment. And so it's nice when you have these things that you don't have to, that you can, just these long
Study.
term that you can study and go deep. And then even when something happens like the ice thing, that can become, a longer project. And you've worked with Carol Guzzi before. I mean, the unbelievable job that she's doing on ice.
Immigration is yeah.
Oh
Unbelievable.
man, she's so good, you
Yeah,
know.
yeah. She's a great storyteller as well.
Yeah, she's fantastic, and
Yeah.
she's right in there.
Well,
Yeah.
Mark, I thank you so much for doing this. If anyone else has any other questions or comments, raise your hand or start screaming. This is this is the time. But I really do appreciate you doing this once again. First, I think this may be your third time on this year.
Yeah, we've done a lot, and reason being, I was thinking about that. This year has been just a momentous year. I mean, we were on because of the Southern California wildfires.
Right? And the
And then
Ukraine
figure, well, that would be it for the year, right? And then all of a sudden we have the ice thing going on, and figured, okay, well, that would be it for the year.
protest.
And then this
Yeah.
book came out, and then I'll see you, at
In,
the end of January, hopefully with the Ukraine thing. I mean,
yeah.
it just you never know how
Well, that's what I always tell anyone that's been on or wants to be on, it's a standing invitation to come back, right? I mean,
I'm always honored to be on it for sure, and I
uh,
really appreciate everybody tuning in to
yeah.
spend some time with us. Thank you, Barbara. I appreciate. I saw the hands.
And
Thank
Amy,
you.
Book is
yeah,
amazing.
I can't see everybody. Oh, thank you so much. I can't see everybody at the same time, but I
yeah,
appreciate you, Rome. Thank you very much.
yeah.
Uh,
Just keep doing what you're doing, because I tell you, you got something very special. So keep that to yourself and don't spread it around too much. Thank you so much. I'm a New Yorker all the way, but I always loved
Well,
it.
me too. Me too. Actually, I was born in New York, and I have New York parents. And once you have New York parents, you're a New Yorker, right? I didn't know the word water had an R in it till I was probably 10.
Oh gosh. Well, this was just marvelous, sir. Thank you so very much for your kindness and your effort. God
No,
bless you.
thank you, Barbara. Thank you, Noon. I just saw yours. Take care, you guys. I'll see you.
Bye.
See you in
Very
just over
cool.
a month.
Thank you.
Bye.
Mark,
Thank
have
you, Amy. Good seeing you again.
Mark, have great holidays, safe
Thank you.
travels around the world.
Healthy,
And
healthy
and
holidays.
we'll see you at the end of January for our next series on Ukraine. Oh wait, Arlie, yeah, everyone's clapping and sending
Thank
you
you so much,
lots of
everyone.
love.
Are you in LA now, Mark?
I am in LA till
Okay.
Monday. Are you?
Yeah.
Oh, good. Are you going to go Thursday to Leica for Peter Turnley?
I may. Are you
If you
going?
do, say hi for sure, please.
Yeah, you're going, right?
Oh, for sure.
Okay, cool.
Come and say hi.
Okay, I will.
Cool.
All right,
All
you're
right.
on, Amy. He's gonna look
Thanks,
for
we're
you.
on.
There you go. I am
Yeah.
gonna look for you now. You're on. Don't be an LA flake. You know how we are.
Oh, no.
I'm just playing. I'm just playing with you.
No, I'm just on a crazy deadline right now. That's my thing. So
I
yeah.
know, but yeah, if you can, Peter Turnley would of course be great to see.
Yeah,
So.
and being that you mentioned Peter, on the 17th, Peter will be on projections talking about his latest book.
Okay, and I see Linda. So I saw it said Lothar, but Linda Troller, of course, is an expert on baths too.
Yeah.
Linda on?
Oh, that's Lothar. Lothar doesn't take many baths, so he may
Okay.
not be much of
But
a.
it said something like Linda underneath.
Yeah.
I thought.
Yeah. Okay.
Hey,
Yeah, Linda
Lothar.
was just here. Hey, Linda,
Oh, good.
let me just get her.
Okay, good. You guys know Linda Troller and her
Yeah, she's been on as well.
and her association with the baths and things.
Yeah, that I didn't know.
Oh
That
yeah.
the Turkish baths in the city? Well,
God,
where?
it's been so long. I have one of her books.
Greek baths.
I would have to. Do you know which ones she did? I'm trying
Here's
to.
Linda.
Where? Oh, there you are. Hello
Linda.
there.
Here
Linda,
is
how are
Linda.
you?
Hi,
Good. I was talking about the
I love-
Japanese hot springs,
I
and
loved your presentation.
thank.
Yeah.
But no, because I remember we were in contact, and I know your association with the baths and things. So I
I
was.
loved having your book.
Yeah.
I
Thank
love
you.
seeing the expansion and everything.
Thank you. Yeah, there's the latest one, the brand new one right here. Is that? Thank you. Never-ending effort, as you know, all too well.
I like
But
your ceiling. It looks like you're on a boat.
oh,
There, Linda and Lothar. Like their
oh,
ceiling
there's
is
oh,
so
there's
interesting.
there's.
Oh, that's our Florida room. It's
Oh, it's an expansion.
yeah,
It's a
it
boat
was
ceiling. It's very cool.
it was an outside terrace, whatever you call it, and it was enclosed now.
I see. That's how you got it. Good. Excellent.
Former owner put windows in and
What are we talking about?
about
No,
the
no,
room here.
the ceiling is
Oh,
unusual.
come visit.
I would
Yeah.
love to. We'll have to go. I'll do a bath somewhere.
Yes, we have a pool here.
Okay,
Yeah.
there we go. That's close enough.
Yeah, I'm having a show right now that has a couple pictures from the mineral springs. But I love, how you really went so deep into the story and how you went from like taking more journalistic what you
Yeah.
could get, and then
Yeah.
you started managing them a bit.
Exactly. Yeah.
And it's just fantastic.
Thank you, Linda. I appreciate coming from you. I really appreciate that. So, thank you guys. Good luck with your show, and I'll see everybody again for sure.
Sure.
Take
Okay. Happy holidays to everybody.
Happy
Holidays.
holidays.
We'll see you on the 17th.
All right, and Amy, I'll see you before then.
Yeah, I will. Are they having the thing over the weekend, where they do the talk too?
Well, I'll go for Thursday. Or
You know
look
how
it
they
up.
do?
Yeah, not sure. That I don't know.
I'm going to write you through your website and I'll get
Do it.
your stuff.
Okay.
Okay, I'll do that
Perfect.
now. I'm going to do it right now.
All right, I'm going to run off to yoga, but I'll respond
Okay.
after that.
Okay, cool.
You guys.
Bye.
Thanks, Mark.
See you guys.
Thank you, guys.
Nice
Bye.
to see you, Frank and Jay.
Hey,
Yeah,
Aim.
hi, you guys. Hi,
Yeah.
Stefan. You have to cut this part, Jay. We're all like,
It's all
no,
good.
it's nice to see you. I haven't seen you guys in a while. Yeah.
It's all
Yeah,
very
I saw you had the Vivian Mayer thing, but then the actual live one was like really early in the morning here, I think.
Yeah.
I thought that looked really, really interesting. Greenwood, right?
Howard was in Berlin. Everyone
Oh,
was different, but you really, Amy, if you want like some, I mean, it was very interesting just listening to Howard about that story.
very cool.
I mean, it's really very
Really
the whole
fascinating.
story that you know, you probably know most of it.
I know a lot. I mean, I was working at Photo LA when they were like launching her, like I'll call it postmortem career, if you will,
Right. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and they were all there and just the whole intrigue of it and before all the copyright stuff happened.
Yeah, yeah,
It was really such a fascinating story.
yeah, and he shares it with sort of, I don't want to say youthful, but he shares it with nice enthusiasm.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, I'll definitely
Yeah,
have to check that out.
yeah, really fun. So,
Very
but,
cool.
but thanks everyone, and like I said, we have Peter on the 17th, so hopefully other people can make it, and it's all good.
All
So
good.
happy, great
Happy trails.
holidays. Happy.